I've always thought of myself as a pretty normal person. I'm not an influencer or one of those people who live online. I work a regular 9 to 5 at a dental clinic, and when I get home, I like to scroll through TikTok, maybe film a quick dance video before bed. It was just something harmless I did to unwind. My room faced the street. I had these thin white curtains that let in a soft orange glow from the streetlights outside. Sometimes the headlights of passing cars would streak across my walls like flashes from an old camera, and for whatever reason, I liked how it looked on camera. That warm, hazy light made my videos feel cozy, real. I never thought much about it. For months, I had maybe a few hundred followers. Most of them were other girls from work or random people who liked dance content. But one night in early October, I noticed something strange in the comments. It was a new account, no profile picture, just a plain gray circle and a username that looked like random numbers, user_431908. The comment said, "I can see the reflection of your street sign in the window." At first, I thought it was just some troll trying to sound creepy. People post weird stuff all the time. I laughed it off, deleted it, and moved on. But later that night, as I was scrolling through my notifications, I saw that the same account had commented again, this time on an older video, "Cute car. White Honda, right?" My stomach dropped. My car is a white Honda. It's parked right out front, in the spot you can barely see through my curtains. I tried to tell myself it was coincidence, that maybe I'd mentioned my car before, or maybe they saw it through some other clip I forgot to trim. But the more I looked, the more specific it got. In another comment, they said, "You should really close your blinds more often. It's cold out there." That line stuck with me. It was only then that I realized, in my latest video, I had been recording at night. And behind me, through the window, there was nothing but darkness. No way anyone could have known it was cold unless they were outside. I remember turning around and staring at that window for a long time. The curtains looked paper thin now, like anyone could just press their face against the glass and see everything. The next morning, I reported the account and blocked it. TikTok removed the comments, and I felt stupidly relieved, like that was the end of it. But it wasn't. 2 days later, a new comment appeared, this time from another random username. It said, "You leave for work around 7:30, right? Traffic on Maple Street's been bad lately." I froze. They knew my schedule, my commute, even the name of the street I took. I didn't post anything for the rest of the week. I kept my phone face down, paranoid that I'd see another comment. Every creak in the house, every passing car made me jump. My roommate, Jenna, tried to calm me down. She said it was just some stalker online trying to scare me. But that night, when I went to close my blinds, I noticed something across the street. A faint light, like the reflection of a phone screen, floating in the dark, pointed directly at my window. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe someone sitting on their porch, scrolling. But deep down, something felt wrong. The next morning, there was another comment waiting for me. Same writing style. Same strange tone, blue pajamas this time. Nice choice. I hadn't posted anything new. That's when I realized, whoever this was, they weren't just seeing my videos, they were watching me live. I barely slept that night. Every noise made me jolt awake. I started double-checking locks, unplugging my phone, even taping over my laptop camera. But the comments didn't stop. Every time I blocked one account, another popped up. Same tone. Same eerie familiarity. "You forgot to water your plant again. That candle smells good, doesn't it? Smile more. You look sad tonight." By that point, it felt like whoever it was knew me better than I knew myself. By the second week, I couldn't take it anymore. I stopped filming entirely. Deleted TikTok from my phone. But even that didn't help. because somehow the comments kept coming. They started showing up on my other accounts, Instagram, YouTube, even my work email. The messages always felt the same, taunting, personal, like the person had a front row seat to my life. On October 18th, around 11:45 p.m., I saw movement outside my window again. This time it wasn't just a reflection. There was a faint red dot moving across the glass, like a laser pointer. My hands started shaking. I dropped to the floor and crawled toward my phone. Jenna wasn't home that night, so I called the police. When the officers arrived, they didn't find anyone outside. They checked the street, the yard, everything. No footprints, no signs of forced entry. Just an empty neighborhood bathed in orange light. They told me to install security cameras and close my curtains at night. As if I hadn't already thought of that. The next morning, I checked my notifications again, and there it was. Nice talking to the cops last night. They looked lost. That comment made my blood run cold. Whoever it was had been watching me call the police. I remember running straight to the window, throwing open the blinds, and staring out into the street. And for a moment, I saw him. A man. Standing across the road. Still as stone. Wearing a dark hoodie pulled over his head. He didn't move. He didn't even flinch when our eyes met. He just stood there for what felt like forever, then slowly turned and walked toward the corner, disappearing into the shadows. After that, I barely left my room. I took a leave from work, moved my bed away from the window, and started sleeping with a knife under my pillow. Days later, I went to the police again with screenshots, account names, everything. They told me they'd try to trace the IP addresses. A week later, I got the call. The officer's voice was calm, almost too calm. He said the IP had been traced to an address directly across from mine, to a man named Eric Daniels. He was in his late 40s. Lived alone. Worked from home. They searched his house and found something that made my skin crawl. There were dozens of photos of me, taken through my bedroom window. Some were zoomed in so close, you could see the reflection of my phone screen in my eyes. Others were screenshots from my TikToks, printed and pinned to the wall. In his computer, they found fake accounts, all the usernames I had blocked. Each one linked back to his IP. He had been using a high-powered telephoto lens to watch me from his upstairs window, keeping track of every post, every outfit, every move. The worst part? He wasn't arrested right away. They said they needed more evidence of a direct threat. So for weeks, I had to live across the street from that man, pretending not to see him, pretending not to notice the flicker of light from his upstairs window every night. I eventually moved out of that neighborhood. Deleted all my social media. I changed my number, my job, everything, but sometimes, late at night, I still feel like I'm being watched. I'll catch a glimpse of a reflection, maybe a car mirror, maybe a window, and I'll freeze, wondering if someone's lens is aimed at me again. If you're watching this, just be careful what you post online. You never really know who's looking back at you. I've always loved taking pictures. I wasn't a big-time influencer or anything, just a college kid with an old Canon and an obsession with catching the right light. My Instagram page was kind of my escape. I posted little things, city shots, hiking trails, empty train stations at dawn. I'd tag locations, write a few words in the caption, and that was it. It was normal. Until it wasn't. It started in late September, around 10 p.m. I was scrolling through my notifications when I noticed a tag from an account I didn't recognize, at Before You Post. The name stuck out, but I assumed it was spam. I clicked it anyway, and what I saw made my chest tighten. It was my photo, the same one I posted that morning, a shot of a storm rolling over the college parking lot. Except theirs had gone up 5 hours before mine. same framing, same editing style, even my watermark, like they'd somehow taken the file before I uploaded it. I laughed it off at first, thinking maybe Instagram had glitched or duplicated my post. But then I scrolled through the rest of their page. Every image was one of mine, from weeks, even months earlier. Except each one had been posted hours before I ever shared them. I checked the timestamps 3 times. It made no sense. I had the original files. They were on my SD card. Nobody else had access to them. The captions were the worst part. Under each photo, instead of descriptions or hashtags, there were short, cryptic lines. Things like, "It's always darker before the next shot. You'll see it tomorrow. I'm just showing what's about to happen." At that point, I thought maybe someone had hacked me, or worse, someone I knew was messing with me. But when I went to message the account, my hands started shaking. I typed, "Who are you? How do you have my photos?" They read it instantly. Then the typing bubble appeared. After a few seconds, they replied, "I'm just showing what's about to happen." I stared at that message for a long time, feeling my pulse in my ears. I showed it to my roommate, Eric, who thought it was just a prank. He said maybe someone had found my drafts folder or scraped my stories before posting. But I hadn't shared those images anywhere. They were still on my camera when the other account uploaded them. That night, I barely slept. I kept checking my camera, my files, my passwords. Everything was normal. Nothing was missing. But when I woke up the next morning, there was another tag from that Before You post. This time, it wasn't a landscape or city photo. It was my dorm window. Taken from outside, I ran to the window. The curtains were half open, sunlight pouring through, and for the first time I realized how exposed I'd been every night, editing photos with the blinds open, the glow from my monitor spilling onto the wall. Anyone standing outside could have seen right in. I deleted the tag, blocked the account, and tried to report it. But within minutes, another page appeared, at After You post, with the same pictures. Same captions. Same eerie timestamps. It didn't feel like trolling anymore. It felt like someone, or something, was anticipating what I'd do next. A week later, I decided to go on a solo hike just outside of town. It was one of my favorite spots, an old forest trail near Crescent Ridge, where the trees looked like black silhouettes against the fog. I figured a new environment might clear my head. I brought my camera, took a few test shots near the trailhead around noon, and planned to upload them later that night. Everything seemed fine, peaceful, even. I remember the smell of wet pine and the distant rush of the creek. When I got home, I plugged in my SD card, transferred the files, and opened Instagram. And my stomach dropped. At Before You post had tagged me again. It was the same photo I'd just taken, same trail, same angle, same lighting, but the timestamp showed it had been posted the night before. The caption read, "He shouldn't have gone alone." I swear, I felt the blood drain from my face. I called Eric over to show him, but by the time he looked, the post was gone. The whole account had vanished again. That night, I couldn't focus on anything. I kept staring at my window, half expecting to see someone out there. The next morning, my messages were flooded, friends tagging me, asking if I was okay. I didn't understand why until I checked my DMs. Someone had posted a picture of me, lying on the ground near the trailhead. My clothes were dirty, my camera strap twisted beside me. The photo was sharp, detailed, too detailed. It had been uploaded at 8:09 p.m., exactly 1 hour before I even left for the hike. The caption said, "He won't wake up this time." That's when I blacked out. The next thing I remember was waking up in a hospital bed. Bright lights, the smell of antiseptic. A nurse told me they'd found me unconscious near the Crescent Ridge Trail, my head bleeding, my camera missing. The police came later and asked if I remembered anything. I didn't. Just flashes. Leaves crunching underfoot. A whisper behind me. A sound like a camera shutter in the dark. When they checked my phone, all the messages and tags from it before you post were gone. The account didn't exist anymore, no trace, no archive, nothing. But the officers said something that still keeps me up at night. When they checked my camera bag, they found an empty memory card, formatted, completely wiped, but the last recorded file ID on the card was exactly one higher than my last photo at Crescent Ridge. Meaning, something had taken one more picture before I blacked out. They could never recover it. It's been over a year now. I don't post much anymore, barely even touch my camera. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, I'll get a phantom notification. Just a ping. No new messages, no tags, no alerts. Once, I opened my gallery and saw a new photo appear for half a second before vanishing, a picture of my apartment from across the street. I've stopped checking. If you ever see an account posting your photos before you take them, don't message it. Don't even open it. Because whatever it is, it's not predicting the future, it's deciding it. I've sold a lot of things on Facebook Marketplace, old clothes, furniture, random stuff from my apartment. It's never been a big deal. Usually you meet in a parking lot, hand off the item, done. But this time, it was different. It was early June, a Sunday evening. I was moving to a smaller place and needed to get rid of my old sofa, a big beige sectional that barely fit through my front door. I listed it for $50, and within a few hours, I got a message from an account named Margaret Lewis. The profile picture was a sweet-looking older woman with gray hair, smiling next to what looked like her husband. She messaged, "Hi dear. My son can pick it up tonight if that works for you." It felt harmless. The messages were polite, full of emojis, the kind of thing that made you drop your guard. I told her that was fine, and she said he'd be there around 9 o'clock. Around 8:30, I straightened up my living room, moved a few boxes out of the way. My apartment was small, a single bedroom on the 3rd floor with big sliding windows that overlooked the parking lot. I remember the faint smell of rain outside and the soft hum of my air conditioner. Everything felt calm. 18:12, there was a knock. 3 short taps. I opened the door to find a man, probably mid-30s, wearing a dark hoodie and jeans. He smiled right away. "Hey, I'm Margaret's son. You must be Lauren?" I nodded. He seemed normal enough, friendly, even. His smile lingered a little too long, but I didn't think much of it. He stepped inside to check out the couch and started chatting, complimenting my decor, the photos on my wall, even my plants. At first it was small talk. Then he started asking questions. "You live here alone?" he said casually, brushing the armrest of the sofa. I laughed awkwardly. "No, my boyfriend helps me with moving stuff." I lied. He nodded, still smiling, like he knew I was lying. Then he crouched down to look under the couch, saying something about checking for scuffs before loading it. When he stood up, I noticed something strange. My spare keys weren't on the hook near the door anymore. I kept them hanging there, right by the light switch. I figured maybe I'd moved them earlier, so I ignored the thought. He helped me lift one side of the couch, and when we carried it out to his truck, he made another weird comment. "You've got a good layout here," he said. "Cozy. Easy to find your way around." The way he said easy made my stomach tighten. After we loaded the couch, he shook my hand, thanked me again, and left. I watched from the window as he drove off. For a while, I stood there staring at the empty space where the couch had been, trying to shake the weird feeling that lingered after he left. Later that night, when I went to lock the front door, I noticed something off. The knob felt loose, like the screws had been turned just enough to make it shift under my hand. I remember testing it twice, then sitting on the floor, staring at the door. Maybe he'd just leaned on it when he was leaving. Maybe I was being paranoid, but the next night proved I wasn't. It was 1:47 a.m. when I woke up. I don't know why, maybe a sound, maybe just that heavy feeling you get when something's wrong. The room was dark except for the faint blue light from my phone charger. Everything was quiet. Then I heard a soft creak from the living room. At first, I thought it was the AC expanding, or maybe the floor settling. But then came another sound, slower, deliberate, the faint click of a latch turning. My stomach dropped. I reached for my phone and opened my security camera app. I had a small indoor cam pointed at the hallway, mostly to keep an eye on my dog when I wasn't home. The feed took a second to load, and in that moment, I swear my heart stopped. There he was, the same man from last night. Standing inside my apartment, he was closing my door, quietly, like he'd done this before. His hood was pulled up, his face half hidden, but I recognized the same grin, faintly visible in the dim light. He looked around the room slowly, then down the hallway, toward my bedroom. I froze. My phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor with a dull thud. I didn't breathe. I didn't even blink. I just sat there, watching him move closer, step by step. Then, as if he heard something, maybe my phone hitting the floor, he stopped. Looked directly at the camera. I swear, he smiled. I called 911, whispering so quietly the dispatcher had to ask me to repeat myself. I told her someone was in my apartment. She told me to stay in the room, lock the door, and stay on the line. I did. I shoved my dresser against the door, gripping the handle so tight my knuckles turned white. For the longest 2 minutes of my life, I listened, the faint sound of footsteps pacing the hallway, drawers opening, the soft creak of the floorboards near the door. Then silence. When the police arrived, the front door was wide open. They searched the building but found no one. Nothing stolen, nothing broken. But when they checked my key rack, the small hook by the door, my spare key was gone. He'd taken it the night before, while helping me move the couch. The mother account? It was fake. The Facebook profile had been created that same morning, with stock photos pulled from an obituary website. The phone number she'd used was disconnected by the next day. The police replaced my locks and filed a report, but they said there wasn't much they could do. The man hadn't been identified. The truck plates didn't match any registered vehicle nearby. For weeks, I couldn't sleep. Every creak, every passing car, every flicker of light made me jump. I kept the lights on and the blinds shut tight, but the worst part came a few nights later. Around 3:20 a.m., my security cam pinged again. Emotion alert. I opened the feed, hands trembling, half expecting to see him inside again, but this time, he was standing outside my window, looking in. He didn't move. He didn't try to come in. Just stood there for nearly 5 minutes, staring directly into the camera, holding something small and metallic in his hand. When the police checked the footage later, they froze the frame and zoomed in. It was my spare key. I moved out the following week. Deleted Marketplace, got rid of all my listings, and now, whenever I walk past a stranger smiling a little too kindly, I can't help but wonder, does he know where I live? I'm not proud to say this, but I spend a lot of time scrolling through live streams. Mostly late at night, when the apartment's quiet and that weird empty feeling hits. That's how I first came across her. It was sometime around February of last year. I remember because it was freezing outside. I was up late editing photos, half listening to background noise, when her stream popped up under the Live Now tab on Instagram. Her username was simple, something like @Smara, and her profile picture looked warm, inviting. She was sitting in a small, softly lit bedroom. Fairy lights behind her, a pink blanket, a cat sleeping at the foot of her bed. At first, it looked like a normal stream. She was just sitting there, brushing her hair, scrolling through her phone, occasionally looking toward the screen. The kind of casual, cozy vibe people love. The only thing that threw me off a bit was how quiet it was. She didn't say much. In fact, she didn't say anything. The chat kept sending hearts and messages, stuff like "you're so pretty" or "where are you from?" But she never responded. No talking, no reading comments, just her camera running for hours. I figured maybe she was one of those aesthetic streamers, like looping background ambience or ASMR. But something about it felt too real. Every now and then, she'd shift slightly, glance up at the camera, and smile like she was reacting to something. Only, it was never at the same time as the comments. Almost like there was a delay, I brushed it off. I followed her, watched the next few nights, and it was always the same. She'd go live around 11:37 p.m., same setup, same lighting, same cat sleeping in the background. Always calm, always quiet, but then, on maybe the 5th night, I noticed something that made my stomach twist a little. Behind her, in the far corner of the room, there was a tall floor mirror. And in that reflection, I could see just a sliver of the hallway outside her door. At first, it was empty. Then, halfway through the stream, I saw something move. Just a flicker, a shadow, like someone walking past the door frame. Mara didn't react. She didn't even look up. I kept watching, waiting for something else to happen. But after an hour or two, the stream ended suddenly, just cut off mid-frame. That was the first night I couldn't shake the weird feeling that someone was there with her. The next day, I checked her account again. She had gone live again, right around midnight. I joined late this time, but the stream looked almost identical. Same clothes, same posture, same lighting, down to the faint hum of whatever heater she had in her room. It was so exact that I opened 2 tabs on my phone, one showing the previous night's stream, someone had screen recorded and posted it, and one showing the new live. And when I compared them side by side, it was identical. Frame for frame. She was doing the same movements. The same tilt of her head, the same tiny smile, even the same way she tucked her hair behind her ear at the 32-minute mark. I don't know how long I stared before my brain really processed what that meant. Whatever I was watching wasn't live. I should have just stopped watching then. I know that now. But curiosity does something to you, especially when something feels wrong. So the next night, I joined again. I watched her every minute, staring for any difference. Around 12:06 a.m., something did change. She looked up from her phone, directly at the camera. And for the first time since I started watching, her expression broke. Her lips trembled, barely noticeable, and then she mouthed something. I leaned closer to the screen, my heart pounding. She said, "Clear as day, help me." I froze. I actually froze. I tried typing in the chat, "Are you okay? What's happening?" But of course, she didn't reply. The stream ended 10 seconds later. And my hands were shaking so bad that I almost dropped my phone. I went straight to her profile, but it was gone. Deleted, the account, the videos, everything. The next morning, I couldn't let it go. I had screen recorded that last second of her live, the frame where she looked at the camera. I took a screenshot and ran it through Google's reverse image search, just out of morbid curiosity, and that's when my stomach dropped. The image matched, perfectly, to a missing persons report from 2018. A girl named Marissa Hale, 21 years old, disappeared from her apartment in Michigan. The photo in the report was almost identical to the live stream setup, the same bed, same wall posters, same fairy lights. I read the article 3 times, just trying to convince myself it was some kind of weird coincidence. But it wasn't. The details matched too closely. The article said her phone was found still recording a live video on the night she vanished. Police assumed it had been deleted after. But someone had those videos. Someone had been looping them, pretending to be her, streaming them to new audiences years later, probably to lure people in. And that help me moment? That wasn't live. It was part of her original recording, maybe her last moment, caught before she was taken. I tried reporting it. Sent the links, screenshots, everything. The police said they'd forward it to cybercrime. I never heard back. A week later, I got a message request on Instagram. No profile picture, no posts. Just one line, "You watched her. Want to see more?" The account was deleted before I could even reply. It's been months now, but sometimes, late at night, I'll get those random Live Now notifications from accounts I don't remember following. When I click them, it's always the same kind of setup, a girl sitting in a dimly lit bedroom, quietly staring at the camera, never saying a word. And sometimes, when I look close enough, I swear, I can see that same mirror in the corner and someone, standing just out of frame. Be careful who you follow online. Sometimes, they're not the ones behind the screen. Sometimes, the scariest thing isn't what's hiding in the dark, it's who's watching from the other side of the screen. If this story made you glance twice at your phone tonight, tell me in the comments. I want to know you're still there. Tap the like button if your heart raced, and subscribe to Jenny Noir, because the next story waiting in your feed might already be watching you. Until then, keep your camera covered and your lights on.